Too many people are sleeping on the Georgia Bulldogs, and they're about to find out.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to The Portal Podcast, where you get your daily college football scoop, recruiting, transfer portal, and everything else right here on The Portal Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making The Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, if you bet $5 on the FanDuel app, you can get $300 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Just download the FanDuel app today. We're going to be talking all things regarding college football's big matchups. I've got two that I'm going to talk about extensively. Georgia at Tennessee. Have very strong opinions about it. We're going to talk about Notre Dame and Texas A&M, the Irish hosting that game. Are they out of the college football playoff if they lose? A sleeper game, Ole Miss in Arkansas. I'm going to talk about that in multiple layers. Coaching firings. Are coaches not going to get fired quite as early now as they used to? Because administrations, and rightfully so, are worried about the transfer portal. I want you to think about that. If you fire your coach late September, early mid-October, are you more likely to lose players to the portal? We're going to get into that. And then I'm going to have my quarterback rant to conclude the show. This is going to be important because I have some opinions that I really want to share. For those of you that don't know, I am a very opinionated guy. And if you want somebody that's straightforward, this is the place for you. But first, as I started off with, people are sleeping with Georgia. If you take nothing else from this podcast, note the following. When great coaches have the opportunity to have the media and fans help, quote unquote, motivate their team for them, watch out. Saban talked about it all the time. He would get mad at the media, and it's not the media's job, by the way. Nick would go overboard, but the point is still the same. Hey, why don't you guys write about this, that, or the other? Because it's not their job, Mr. Saban. But at the same time, Kirby didn't have to say anything. A lot of people are down on Gunnar Stockton, and I still don't believe he's the national title quarterback. They got to prove that. But it's possible. And there's a lot of young players for Georgia that are really starting to step up. But most importantly, people are sleeping on the fact that they've got something like 8 5-stars on their depth chart on defense. Raylan Wilson and all these different guys that they have, they can play. So before I talk about Gunnar Stockton, Joey Aguilar, or anything else, Josh Heupel's a great coach and they've done some different things. No, motivation is top of the board. And when was the last time a motivated Georgia team really just laid an egg in an SEC game? Motivated. You could go back to the Bama game last year. That was one of the weirdest games I've ever seen. Maybe. I think that's more schematical. They didn't do a very good job of preparing for the legs of a certain Alabama quarterback who's moved on to the NFL. But I'm telling you, they're going to come out focused and ready to play. And we all know Kirby can scheme it up defensively, and he's going to need to. I was just looking at stats right before I went with this show and started to broadcast. And I'm a little surprised. Tennessee, even though they lost maybe the most productive running back in recent Tennessee history, they're still really good at running back. They got not one but two guys. And then on the other side, you want to run the ball and you want to stop the run. Tennessee, I mean, I know they haven't played elite competition. Syracuse, not as good as last year, etc. But they're holding teams to 76 yards a game. So to me, the biggest question in this game, will UGA be able to average 4.0 yards per carry from, let's say, mid first quarter to late first quarter on? Sometimes your first drive, you get stuffed. I kind of throw that out. It happens. Or they may come out with some scripted plays for Gunnar. I don't know. And he'll probably run the ball too. But if they can run the ball on Tennessee and take pressure off Gunnar, they've got a much better chance to win. On the flip side, I think Tennessee is in a very difficult situation in terms of, I know they want to go up top. This is a vertical offense. It's a horizontal stretch. They have the widest splits in college football. They've traded in some of that, and they've added some other parts from other offenses. It's more diverse. But at its core, Josh Heupel and his staff, they want to have a vertical stretch based on horizontal alignment, putting you in one-on-ones. Will they be able to protect with Raylan Wilson, all these different guys coming off the edge, different blitzes? I'm not sure. Christian Miller is a really key player, the interior defensive lineman for the Dogs. Great guy, played at Cedar Grove High School in Atlanta. I remember him from high school days. That's a player that if they can contain him and they don't allow anybody else from UGA, again, they got a ton of good defensive linemen. They don't let anybody else consistently penetrate. Maybe Aguilar can get some up top throws, but I just don't think they're going to be able to do it quite as consistently. And then we get to this. A lot of teams against UT, they play off. Mike Matthews, their sophomore receiver, he was a 5-star recruit. They play off. UGA has the DBs that I don't think they're going to do that. They're going to play up. They're going to take at least one safety, and they'll probably switch it up. And they're going to bring them into the box. They've got tons of talented players, and they'll rotate guys because they're that confident, and they should. I mean, it's pretty grotesque what they have. But Star Thomas, Deshaun Bishop, are they going to be in the same situation, 4 yards or more a carry early on against Georgia? I doubt it. I think Georgia will lead early, and that's very important. It will help Gunnar Stockton, and it will also, very key here, it will also help their defense because they're going to be able to rotate guys, and I think they'll run the ball at least decently. Tennessee's defense is legit, but once you start seeing Tennessee not be able to just run the ball, and if UGA does what they normally do and takes away those short access throws, you're putting Joey Aguilar in a situation where he's got to hit mid-level shots and down the field shots to move the ball. NFL quarterbacks struggle to do that. I don't think Tennessee's going to be able to consistently pass protect against 4 and 5 man pressure. And if they come all out, obviously that's difficult. And I think Joey will struggle with that. And I also don't think that Tennessee's receivers are going to consistently win 50-50 battles against UGA down the field. That's my opinion. Again, Georgia is motivated. I don't have any discussion on this. I'm not a fan of either team or anything, but I just think when Kirby's teams are motivated and it's the same game plan he's always using against UT, he's going to bring them up, going to try to make you do something else. I don't think Bishop and Thomas are going to run a lot. The one caveat here, and this is where Tennessee might have to win a few of their games, not just UGA. If they're going to win, at some point, Aguilar, who's a good athlete, not just designed runs, he's got to take off when he makes a guy miss or something and goes and gets you 30 or 40. It's possible. UGA is going to bring a few pretty strong blitzes during this game, in my opinion. I think they're going to try to rattle him early, too. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think they're really going to bring it. If he can do that, maybe he will soften up what UGA does with their safeties coming in the box. That play also needs to happen fairly early. It's not going to help you in the fourth quarter if you're down 20 points or down 10 points or something. And I think UGA could get up big. I really do. I like them by double digits. I don't think Tennessee's going to be able to run the ball consistently against them. And while UGA is not going to run all over UT, let's not get it twisted. They'll make a few big plays. I think they are far less likely to turn the ball over. And that's, I could have led with that, but I don't think that Tennessee's quarterback situation and their ability to run block. Remember, they got a true freshman at right tackle. Sanders, he's good, but I need to see that. And I really need to see Tennessee take on a team that has the ability that Georgia does in their front seven to move the ball on 1st and 10. Instead of it being 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7, it needs to be 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4 with Aguilar. I don't think he's accurate enough, consistent enough with down the field throws with who they have, with the way Georgia's DBs are, for them to win. I like Georgia by double digits, and I've got them winning this game 24-14. I think it will be a turnover, ugly game where both teams do a pretty good job of slowing down the run, but Georgia will do a slightly better job. By the way, just as a side point, Georgia's O-line is starting to get better. Maybe this is the week they kind of take that next step. I don't know. Gunnar Stockton, I don't think will play great by any means, but I don't think Aguilar will either. And I also think he will turn the ball over at least one more time. So for this first game, I got Georgia, again, 24-14. That's just my opinion. We'll see if I'm right. When we come back, Notre Dame hosts Texas A&M. If the Irish do not win this game, are they out of the playoff? That is next here on the Portal Podcast. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back at who is crowned for this week's MVP, who delivered. Powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players deliver when it mattered most. So let's break it down. For Florida State, they needed to show that the game against Alabama was not just a one-off. They needed to show they could also play focused, play really good football, and throw it down the field. Well, in the first quarter or so, 160 yards receiving for Deuce Robinson. That's my guy. He went nuts. He had 2 touchdowns, including a one-handed grab in the end zone. Deuce Robinson is my player of the week for Florida State. So Florida State gets the big win, and now they're preparing to get geared up. So look out for the Noles. And just like Deuce Robinson delivered for Florida State, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday on your orders, so stack up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, and fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash, terms apply, promo code GOOD through November 18th. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Brian Smith, longtime recruiting analyst and college football writer, covering most things that involve roster management. But with it being the middle of the season, I'm going to start doing a lot more previews, talk about the recruits that are performing or not. And we're going to talk about that right now with a couple really important recruits over the last couple of years for Notre Dame and Texas A&M. That is CJ Carr, the redshirt freshman quarterback for the Fighting Irish, as well as Marcel Reed, a redshirt sophomore out of Mississippi for the Aggies. These two guys are very different. How they were brought up, how they play the game. But one thing is very clear. Neither team is going to take that step to be a playoff team, or maybe even if they did, would they go anywhere unless they both take another step forward? They're pretty inexperienced. Carr played his first game at Miami. He threw the ball pretty well, but he looked a little overwhelmed with some of the different things that were going on with the run game. Let's see what has happened. And with Marcel Reed, teams that throw a lot of different looks at him, he struggled last year, which is typical. He played most of the back half, and he really didn't get a chance to play at all against Notre Dame, so we don't have any evidence with that. That was the first game when the Irish went to College Station last year and won 23-13. So with the first thing here, with this game, Notre Dame's back is against the wall because they're 0-1 after the 27-24 loss to Miami. Now, Mike Elko is not going to admit this, but I guarantee you he wishes that Notre Dame won that. They wouldn't be as motivated, and they wouldn't be like a cornered animal. They know they can't lose this game. Secondarily, Le'Veon Moss only has 13 carries for their first 2 games. That's a future NFL running back. It is called load management. That's smart. Watch out for A&M just to say, we're going to play bully ball. I didn't see, and I highlight out A&M disagrees with this, I didn't see Notre Dame's interior defensive line. I think their defensive ends are pretty good, but their interior defensive line handle Miami on 1st and 10 very well. Miami pushed Notre Dame back way too often. Notre Dame, they don't fix that because A&M's offensive line is on par with Miami's. They're both 2 of the top 5 offensive lines in college football. Notre Dame could be in trouble. The one big thing here, though, is still what I opened with Marcel Reed. He struggled last year with coverages in terms of changing looks. This isn't my opinion. This is from college football coaches. Bud Elliott from CBS Sports and the Cover 3 podcast talked about this. He talks to a lot of coaches, and he brought it up in the offseason. I'm not surprised. Not many guys really understand coverages, especially post-snap reads all that well. It's complex. Notre Dame has gone to a more zone-based defense. It's more split than it was last year. And while I don't think that's a really good use of their DBs in general, this game might be the one saving grace for 2 reasons. Number one, he still has to prove that he can see coverages, understand them, and deliver on time. That's straightforward. Secondarily, Marcel Reed is a freaky athlete. When you have your back to a quarterback, it can be very difficult. If one guy misses, he could have a 100-yard day pretty quick. Marcel can take it 80 because he can run like a receiver or running back. So Notre Dame might do some fire zone. They're probably going to play some man. They definitely had the DBs to do it. Leonard Moore, Christian Gray, etc. They got guys. And while I think they might play a little more man than they did last week against Miami, look for Notre Dame to show him things they did not show in the Miami game schematically. There's going to be some zone coverages he has not seen. that is not on Notre Dame's film from last year. Chris Ash is the new defensive coordinator, and while they're still trying to mesh with Marcus Freeman, that is going to be a very interesting cat and mouse game because A&M's got some really good receivers, and they're very, very quick. Mario Craver's got 13 catches already. He's the slot receiver, and Notre Dame's not as good at slot on the nickel side, like on defense, as they were last year. They need to figure that out, and Craver could tear him up. But if they can on the outside beat Notre Dame, I'd be surprised. They've got really good receivers, don't get me wrong. Concepcion I love, but Notre Dame has 2 NFL corners. I think A&M's going to condense it, try to play in a phone booth, hit Craver, basically just mimic what Miami did. If it's not broke, don't fix it, and make Notre Dame's defensive tackles beat them instead of future NFL corners. Makes sense to me. If they win 16-13, they would care less. They just want to get out of South Bend with a win. And if the Aggies do, the key there, you look at their schedule. It's not easy. It could give them an edge mentally as much as anything else and give them at least a chance to go into November with a shot at the college football playoff. From Notre Dame's side, 2 things. Number one, again, I already kind of noted this. Do they play more zone, less zone, etc.? I actually think they'll play more man, but with a massive caveat. When they go zone, there's going to be combinations of fire zone and stuff they haven't shown yet. It's going to get very complex. They're going to try to get a quote-unquote freebie for Marcel Reed. And number 2, on the other side of the ball, Notre Dame just absolutely did not throw the ball down the field against Miami. They really didn't try. That is going to change. The Aggies aren't a great run defense. You're going to see Jeremiah Love more. It was criminal what they did last game. And part of that's on CJ because they ran a lot of RPO and he threw it instead of giving it to Jeremiah. However, you're going to see some design plays to get Jeremiah the ball early. They're going to go up top. Malachi Fields, Eli Raridan. Greathouse didn't even have a catch. Jaden Greathouse didn't have a catch against Miami. That's going to end real quick. And they're going to throw the ball down the field. The Aggies struggled in that, and that's my biggest question for them this year. They haven't played an opponent yet that can really throw it, so we don't have any answers. Well, they're going to find out because CJ can throw the ball, and I think that can be the difference in the game. He may have a turnover. He may have 2, I don't know, but I bet you they have at least 1 touchdown of over 50 yards throwing the ball. I trust Carr to throw it more than I do Reed against what Notre Dame's defense is. It's just matchups, and Notre Dame's motivated. They're at home. I like Notre Dame in an ugly game. 24-17, and I think it will be a late touchdown kind of situation, kind of like last year. It gets him to, I think going into the fourth quarter, this will be a 3-point game one way or the other. I really, really think this will be a fantastic game, especially if you like defense, because both these teams are going to dare the other teams to throw it and bring extra attention towards the line of scrimmage from their secondary. The quarterback that gets hot could be the guy that not only wins, but kind of sets himself up on the national stage. A&M, again, if they get that win, kind of get that mentality going forward that, hey, we can do this, like a road win at Notre Dame would be huge. And on the other side, again, if Notre Dame goes 0-2, it's going to be hard to make the playoff. It's possible, but it would be very difficult. When we come back, I'm going to have my rant on quarterbacks. I got a lot of things to say. I was right about a few, wrong about a few, but there is one thing that I really know, and I'm going to talk about that next here on the Portal Podcast. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda's athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings this same intention to how we craft every model. You can use all the beautiful craftsmanship in the world at Mazda because it is awesome with their craftsmanship and detail in terms of the Napa leather, the metallic accents, and all the beautiful designs. You can also make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when we make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda. Move and be moved. This show is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here along with college football. So now FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if it wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. For me, I like looking at things from a big box perspective. MVPs. I personally think that Joe Burrow is the best bet because I still don't think the Bengals defense is quite ready to take that step and be really good. So he's going to throw it around. I think he's going to have a massive year for the Bengals. Maybe you think it's somebody else. Maybe you think it's Mahomes. Maybe it's somebody else. But watch out one way or the other for Mr. Burrow. And if you want to bet on over-unders, halftime scores, or anything else, FanDuel has you covered. So you're ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now and visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, it's time for my rant on quarterbacks. I'm going to go down the list. Big Ten and then SEC, some strong takes. Take it for what it's worth. If you have an opinion, that's fine with me. I'm more than happy to listen to what you have to say. But again, quarterback is very, very important. And if you're going to really make any comments or anything, or if you want to hear something, you can also contact me really easily at my email, fbscoutflorida@gmail.com. Again, fbscoutflorida@gmail.com. So let's get on with the rant. Again, I'm just going to start with Big Ten, then I'll jump into the Southeastern Conference afterwards. Big Ten quarterbacks, and this was a funny thing. I listened to the Cover 3 podcast quite a bit. Mark Gronowski from Iowa has not done very well. From South Dakota State, he transferred in from the FCS. And as Danny Cannell, former Florida State quarterback, NFL quarterback, who's on the Cover 3 podcast, said, his pocket presence, he's reading it on a sundial. And I was like, whoa, that is really harsh. I haven't watched an Iowa game, but I've seen some highlights. He seems to be hesitating and not trusting what he's doing. So what Danny's saying, that's probably got some validity, unfortunately. I am big time down on Gronowski. His stat, like first game, he had 44 yards. This is low-hanging fruit. He's the biggest disappointment so far in college football. Ohio State's Julian Sayin, thumbs up. He looked confident against Texas, and in the second game, he came out and dominated. He has a get-it-done attitude. He's not worried about anything. He does his job. I think he will be in the Heisman race. I am very high on Julian Sayin. Luke Altmaier, Illinois' quarterback, is better than what I thought. I was higher on him last year than some, and they were pretty good. But their running game is not as good this year, and he's still getting it done. Watch out for Illinois. They are definitely a college football playoff contender. Oregon's Dante Moore. They won 69-3 against an absolutely overwhelmed Oklahoma State team last week. But it's not how he threw the ball that I was interested in. I like the way he looked. I like the way Dante has shaped his body. He's gotten in better shape. When I knew him in high school, I asked him once, what do you think your running ability is, RPO, goal line? He said, I'm about a 4 out of 10. I'm like, come on, man, you got to be better than that. He has put himself in a better physical situation when they play better competition. And I'm looking at that Penn State game on the 27th in Happy Valley. Do not be surprised if his legs are not important. And I'm going to bring up legs with a couple other guys here in just a minute too. Michigan's Bryce Underwood. He was 9-24 against Oklahoma. They were in his head, changing coverages, changing blitz looks, fire zone, all kinds of stuff. I think he's going to struggle this year for the most part. I've heard people talking about Michigan for the playoff. I thought he would struggle some against Oklahoma, but not this much. I don't think that Michigan is a viable playoff team. Prove me wrong, but Bryce has got to prove that he can handle blitz and that he can throw on time and on rhythm. They got his feet unsettled. I think teams are really going to come after him. So I'm a little down on Michigan. Wisconsin's Danny O'Neal. He's good. He had to come in. Quarterback got injured. He was the next guy up. He's good. Wisconsin may have themselves a future quarterback. Penn State's Drew Aller. A lot of people are down on him, but they haven't played anybody yet. And let's just be honest. They're not going to admit this. They are playing the most generic football possible before the Oregon game. They just don't want to show anything. I don't have an opinion one way or the other on Drew Aller. None. Why? Because that team is getting ready for Oregon. Again, they will never admit that. They play 3 inferior opponents. I could care less what they do. Just don't get hurt. Let's see what he does against Oregon on the 27th. Now, moving on to the SEC. Well, actually, you know what? I want to make one more statement. Do not sleep on Indiana with Fernando Mendoza. I know they play 3 inferior opponents before the Illinois game coming up. He's very good. Do not discount Indiana. I know Illinois is good. And right now, if I had to pick, I'd pick the Illini. Do not discount Fernando Mendoza at IU. Now to the SEC. I thought Jackson Arnold would play pretty well for Auburn. But he looks more comfortable than I thought. He's bigger, faster, stronger. Auburn is going to be a bear to deal with all season long for every team on offense. You've got a bevy of wide receivers led by Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton. And you have a pretty good running back room. But Jackson Arnold is the legs they didn't have last year. They had a mobile quarterback, but not one that could deliver a blow like him. They are a viable threat in the SEC in any game. I don't think they're going to win the league, but I think they have a chance to potentially finish in the top 5 if he stays healthy. The one downside, anytime you've got a quarterback that runs as much, especially with the physicality that Jackson does sometimes, they can get hurt. But he can run. Watch out for Auburn in any given game. If I was a gambler, and I'm not, I would not touch an Auburn game because when he's on, they can score a lot of points. Watch out for Auburn. Alabama, Ty Simpson, he just needs to run more. I'm going to make a very simple statement. He was 17 for 17 in the last game. Obviously, he can be accurate. That's obvious. But I also saw in the Florida State game that he was very good at eluding the rush. The Noles should have sacked him about 8 times because Bama's offensive line got bludgeoned. They were terrible in key moments, especially after they got down. Florida State confused them, made them look bad. Their technique got bad. And Florida State also out-efforted the Alabama offensive line. So Ty Simpson was running around. He did a pretty good job. I think Bama should run him a little bit. Now, I understand they got young quarterbacks behind, but so does everybody else. Use his legs a little more. I think Alabama is still a team that can compete in the SEC. They're an outside chance for the SEC title game. But part of that, I think, is using Ty Simpson, a few more bootlegs, waggles, getting him outside. And if he wants to go get 5 yards, hey, 2nd and 5 never goes out of style. Now, I talked about Aguilar a little bit ago in the preview, Georgia at Tennessee. 2 things here with him, just in general. I need to see what he can do when he breaks contain. Can he really go against an SEC defense and break off a long run? I think that's the key to Tennessee staying in that game because I don't think he's going to be a great passer down the field like he needs to be against Georgia, and they're going to take away the easy access throws. Secondarily, can he at least make one just absolute money shot when somebody like Mike Matthews does win a one-on-one? When that happens, Tennessee cannot miss. They're going to beat Georgia. Whenever that receiver gets that opportunity, you can't hear the announcer say, oh, he overthrew it. Oh, it's just out of it. It has to be on the money. Clutch throws will be absolutely pivotal for the Vols against the Dogs. Oklahoma's John Mateer, I'm just going to be very simple with this. He's the number 1 guy on FanDuel right now. He was my top guy, by the way, in the transfer portal. He's the number 1 guy on FanDuel to win the Heisman. I get it. But he had around 20 carries against Michigan, including sacks. That cannot continue. His carries need to be at most 10 a game. He's not going to survive in terms of his arm and his shoulder and his upper body and his technique throwing the ball is not going to be good enough if he's taking over 10 a game. 20 is just completely out of the realm. They've got to find a better running game. Mateer is great. He's got a great ability to get the ball off, throw some awkward angles, all that. He's got arm talent, but he's not going to make it. Their schedule is brutal. If they cannot do that, and if they do not get Jaden Ott and some of these other guys really going, Oklahoma is eventually going to run out of steam, and it would be a waste of a great quarterback talent. Texas A&M, I talked about with Marcel Reed in the Notre Dame game. I really don't think that he's a bad quarterback. I still think he's progressing. This game against Notre Dame is very important, though. Just post-snap reads. Just yes or no. Is he able to make the decisions and be patient with the 4-yard check down, the 5-yard hitch, throwing to the backs, and then just running for 4 yards and sliding? The more boring that Marcel is, the better A&M will be. Will he do it? Texas, Arch is pretty good, but how much better can he get? He looked like complete garbage on some of his throws against Ohio State. Just threw him in the dirt. Poor technique, etc. That's on Arch. But then he came back in the second game and he looked better. Until they start playing better games against more top-notch competition, I'm not sure that I'm really anywhere with him. I need to see him in another adverse situation. He had like 5 touchdowns in this last game, but they didn't play anybody. Let's wait a little bit on Arch before we get too far in. The secret game I talked about earlier, Arkansas and Ole Miss. This is a game, I believe Arkansas is on the road here. Austin Simmons has got like 3 touchdowns, 4 picks. Young quarterback. He should technically be a true freshman. He enrolled 2 years early. He's now a redshirt sophomore. He's got a gun. He's athletic. He's running around. Is this his breakout moment, or is Taylor Green, who's got 10 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, the senior quarterback for the Arkansas Razorbacks, is it going to be his moment? Simmons can't turn the ball over. kind of like Marcel Reed, more checkdowns, boring, go get you 4 yards. For Green, don't get ahead of yourself. Ole Miss is probably going to play a lot of shell defense. He's a phenomenal runner, phenomenal athlete. I had a chance to see him live. That is a big dude that can scoot. I think they're going to try to keep everything in front of him, make him go 4 yards at a time. We'll see if he does that. So, again, zone defense is going to be a big theme. Quarterbacks have to take advantage of that and run and use their running backs, tight ends, and underneath routes. Don't be impatient. Florida's DJ Wagway. After the game this past weekend, his receivers let him down on a couple of throws, but he's got to throw the football down the field. He's the rare guy, just the opposite of everybody else I'm talking about. Wagway's phenomenally talented. They've got speed to burn. Throw the ball down the field. Tight ends, running backs, receivers, wheel routes, deep overs, posts, straight go ball, sluggo, whatever you want. Get him the opportunity to throw down the field. If he does that, Florida can be a viable threat to beat the LSU Tigers in Baton Rouge. I really like that game, and I'm going to talk about it tomorrow a little bit more. But this is a team that can run the ball. So they've always wanted to be a play-action team, and DJ fits that. Why not give him that shot? Jaden Ball's a dude at running back. Let DJ throw it down the field. And then finally, LSU's Nussmeier. I talked about this a little bit with some of the other guys, checkdowns, etc. I'm curious to see what Florida does schematically in this game. They didn't necessarily play bad against USF in that loss, and their offense left them out to dry, but they got to be careful. LSU's got a lot of speed. Nuss likes to throw it down the field. They might be privy to the idea that being a little more conservative than they normally are is not a bad idea, but they also got to mix it up because Nuss can absolutely kill you down the field. And Caden Durham and some of those guys, if they get any kind of run game going, that's a problem. But that's also why they probably want to crowd the line. If they can just completely take away, that's another approach, I guess, completely take away the run game, could LSU win against Florida with 50 yards rushing? Possibly. But I think the biggest thing there is still, does he take the checkdowns? Nussmeier is known to be impatient, especially if you pressure him. They've got some pretty good athletes up front. Nose guard for Florida is good. I think LSU is going to struggle to run the ball. I like LSU to win, but close, like 31-27 close. I think it'll be a great game. I think there'll be a few busts on both teams on the back end. I'm not sold on either team's defensive secondary completely, but both teams have run defenses that are interesting. Jaden Ball, Caden Durham will be the keys to the game. Does Nussmeier allow Caden Durham and some of these guys just to run the ball? Watch out for Mr. Berry, too, the true freshman running back at LSU. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in. Hit that like button, hit subscribe. We will see you again soon on the Portal Podcast.